In this demonstration, I'm going to talk about the MaintSmart translator. MaintSmart is translatable into any language. I'll begin by going to the program configuration screen, translation menu, manage translations. This is going to open the main translation screen in MaintSmart. To begin with, we'll see the default English language. This is not editable and is the base language for the program. What we're going to do is create a duplicate copy of this language and then translate it as needed. I'm going to go to the options menu, create new language, click the new button. In this case, I'm going to create a Vietnamese language. I choose Vietnamese from the drop-down. And when I click Save, MaintSmart is going to create a copy for translation to Vietnamese. Now this may take a few minutes, so I'll probably pause the video at this point and then restart. Okay, it's already completed. It actually only took about 20 seconds. The next thing we're going to do is close the Manage Translation screen to refresh the language. I'll click OK. I'll exit this dialog screen. Then I'm going to close the main translation screen and then I'll reopen it. Okay, so what we want to do is translate Vietnamese. So I'm going to choose my language to translate, Vietnamese, and there's a couple of different ways that you can apply the translation. You can either replace parts of a text string. In this case, it says use column sort, that's a text string. Perhaps we only want to change the word column. There's a way we can do that by selecting this radio button. Select the word column, and then we can translate it from here. Alternatively, if we want to translate the entire text string, we would choose the lower radio button, and this is the default. Now at the moment I see it copied this onto the clipboard for me automatically. The reason it did that is because I have a translation option set over here. Copy all text on grid row click. So this is our grid and these are rows. So when I click on one of these rows, it's going to copy it onto the clipboard. Okay, so once I have it on the clipboard, my next step is to bring up a web browser or type in the translation manually. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and bring up a web browser. I'll paste in the English text, and that will give me the Vietnamese text. I'll click paste, and there's my Vietnamese translation of manage account parents. I click save, and we'll notice it did add it to the Vietnamese translation database. Okay, let's do another one. Let's try this. Let's go ahead and we'll pick the word file. And since the word file is located on many screens, every screen I believe, we don't want to translate this data item one screen at a time like we did previously. In this case, I'm going to choose this second option. Translate all instances of selected text in screen objects. Now screen objects are everything you see on the screen. The other way things can be translated is through messages or reports. At the moment, our data grid is showing us screen objects. If we wanted to see either reports or messages, we would go to the View menu item and choose whichever one of these we're interested in looking at. Okay, we're going to stick with screen objects for now. Alright, so when I clicked on this row, it did copy the word file. And again, I'll go back to the translator, and I'm just using Google Translate. I'll copy it to the clipboard and paste it. In this case, though, remember, we've chosen this middle option. Now, if we'd chosen the last one, MaintSmart would go through and find the word file anywhere in all the messages, screen objects, and reports and insert it. It's only going to do it if it finds the exact match. So if it finds a menu item, for example, that says print file, it wouldn't translate that. It would only translate it if it just said file. Now, if we did want it to actually insert the translation in any text string that it found, for example, if we wanted to insert this translation into the phrase print file also, we would choose this other option. Most of the time, this is going to give you a more accurate translation, choosing this other option down here. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll save this, and we'll notice what it says here. The last one we did, we translated one screen object. That means one label or menu item or option button for one screen. Okay, so when I click save this time, okay, so we just translated 128 instances of the word file. And that's a pretty big time saver. So for common text, or text that I should say is common to many screens, this might be a better option. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and back out of this and show you how you can apply these translations. And then we'll have a second video on more advanced features of this translator. Essentially, what we've covered so far should be enough to enable you to translate into any language. Okay, so let me exit this screen, and I'm going to go ahead and go to my translation menu item again on my program configuration screen. That's this one right here. And I'm going to pick my translation mode. Okay, so there's 4 different states we can have. No translation means always default to the base language, which is English. This would be the best choice if you're never going to use any other language other than English. Now, with this in mind, you may want to change all the labels. For example, the button text labels such as this. Maybe you don't want it to say postal code. You want it to say zip code. You could create a copy of English and then translate all the labels, all the menu items, all the reports, and all the messages into a different version of English, so to speak, that would give you different labels. It would still be in English, but you can edit all the labels, all the literal text in the entire program by doing that. Okay, in this case we have translation by user select. Now this is probably not the way most live applications would use it. By doing this, each user, when they log in, they can pick their translation. In the real world, you're probably going to have one translation for everyone. In that case, you would probably pick translation by plant. Of course, this could be translation by whatever you want, college, university. You can change this to say something other than plant. We're looking at a manufacturing plant database. That's why it says plant. But we could change it to that. In that case, whoever logged in, they would always get the same translation. Alternatively, you can set the translation by user. So when a user logs in, it would automatically pick up that translation that was set. For now, we're just going to leave it at this, just for the purposes of this demonstration. Okay, so I'm going to exit. I'm going to log out. I'm going to log back in. This time, though, I notice I have all these possible translations. Now they're possible because they're being shown here as just a default black text. And that's just possibilities for translation. We do have English already. Now if we were to choose a different English, we would pick up all of the regional settings for that particular English language. So if we were to pick up the English Great Britain, for example, we would see things in pounds sterling as far as currency goes. Our date formats and so on would be different as well. In this case, we're just going to go to our Vietnamese translation. There it is. And I will go ahead and log in as administrator. Now I only translated a couple of items, and I'm going to go to pretty much any screen. In fact, I can see already it did change my file menu item to the Vietnamese translation of the word file. And if I go to another screen, I see the same thing. Okay, so that is how you use the translator. Be sure to watch the second video on this.